Two-Tone Miles here, and this is In Case You Missed It, Take Your Place by General Rudie. Tonight we're gonna speak truth, play our roots, never step down. And for the most part, I try to do reviews of current CDs. Now, as awesome of an album as it is, I can't really do a review of the specials by the specials and make it sound current. Be all like, have you heard of these guys, the specials? Because they're pretty good. It doesn't really work. That being said, we're going to be doing a CD review of a CD that's about 7 years old right now, from a band that probably doesn't get near the credit they deserve. See, one of the bummers of only recently starting to explore the ska scene in great depth is that there were a couple bands whose heyday I missed entirely. And General Rudie, they're one of those bands. They released 2 full-length CDs before calling it quits in 2006. And unfortunately for me, I didn't really discover their sophomore album, Take Your Place, until 2009. I missed the window to see the band live, and that's really too bad. And there isn't really much live footage of General Rudie out there either, so I can't even really fully appreciate what I missed out on. Now, Take Your Place is simply a phenomenal album. I mean, their first album, Cooling the Mark, was good, but Take Your Place is just great. Really great. And that's part of why I like the album so much. When compared with their earlier effort, you can really see how the band grew up. Everything got tightened down, and just sounds super tight and crisp. While I haven't ever really written up an official top 10 favorite ska albums, I could definitely see placing Take Your Place on such a list. Probably at the same level as All Day by the Pie Tasters, or The Ramblers by Deals Gone Bad, which is pretty high praise. For me, it's definitely one of the better albums released in this past decade. One of the things I really like about General Rudie sound is just how much it seems to bridge the gap between the more traditional two-tone sound and the third wave sound that dominated the 90s. If you could put the energetic, peppy sound of, say, Real Big Fish on one side of the spectrum and the more politically downbeat side of the specials on the other side, General Rudie'd fall right there in the center. Now, that's not a bad thing at all, by the way. I really like their sound for precisely that same reason. They've got a good tempo, particularly on the opening track, Shelter, which has a driving horn line. The song has some great third wave sensibilities, but as soon as the opening verse kicks in, the band hits this great, kind of halting staccato that seems perfectly suited for something out of the two-tone movement. Shelter is just a great track 1 for the CD, just a great intro track. The band did release a music video for the song, which is definitely worth checking out. I'll probably spend the bulk of this review talking about some of my personal favorite tracks. That being said, there really aren't any bad tracks on this CD. Each track deserves a listen in its own right. Each track's really good, there's nothing you'd want to skip over, and that's one of the things that's been real fun about preparing this review. See, Shelter, Prizefighter, Listen This, My Woman is a Danger Cat, those are regular fixtures on my playlist. But over the years, some of the tracks just didn't make various iterations of my playlist. And so in going back to this review, I'm reminded of just how good the rest of the tracks on the album are. How the hell does my playlist currently not include 21? What was I thinking? That's such a great track. And back in 2009, I was all about this CD, and going back to it in 2012 to review it, it's like finding buried treasure. The songs, they all hold up really well, hearing them fresh 3 years later, and it's just a great reminder of what I liked about this track 3 years back. Every track is just stellar. In my opinion, though, the best track on the CD is Listen This. It's got great lead-in vocals, the bari sax lays it on thick, the horn line just has this great funky sound to it. It's a song with a sound all its own. For as much ska as I listen to, it's really hard to come up with any other song to compare it to. It just sounds totally unique. And this track is definitely my favorite. Now, Prizefighter was probably the first track I heard by General Rudie when I was listening to Pandora one day. And I suppose Prizefighter one could look as an extended metaphor for overcoming obstacles, standing up in the face of adversity, but that's probably reading into things a bit too much. All potential metaphors aside, this is a song about boxing, and a fairly technical one as well. You can literally picture this match playing out in your head as you listen to this song. I think it may also be the only ska song about boxing. It has the distinction of being the only ska song about boxing. You can call me out on that if you think I'm wrong. I had this track on episode 4 of Ska and Biology back when I was still, before I started seeking out bands and asking their permission to use their tracks. And if we got a ska song about boxing, how much longer do we have to wait before we get a ska song about MMA? Fastest growing sport in the world. All I'm saying. My Woman is a Danger Cat. That's another great song that I really like, and it's been on my MP3 player for years. To be honest, I have no idea what a danger cat even is. Is that even a real expression? What exactly does one's woman being a danger cat entail? You know, all joking aside, the song has some really spectacular backing from the horns section. There's some great, witty, funny lyrics on display here. Stuff like, they say that love can move mountains, so why are you still standing there? You're high maintenance and self-absorbed, what am I supposed to be? I called you 5 times a day last week just playing tag on our machines. If I'm not home, leave a message, please. Just some great, funny lyrics in this song. This is one of the great songs for when I go out running on a cold, foggy day. It's a nice, long song, got a real good beat for putting the distance under your heels. I suppose if I had to offer some criticism of the album, it's that some of the best tracks don't necessarily have the best endings. Shelter is such a great track, but the last few bars don't really do a lot to seal the deal. It's still a great track, but the ending is definitely the weakest part of the song. The same could be said of Prizefighter, which I think could have just ended on the Never Forget My Name lyric. The last few seconds, they're alright, it's just not the best part of the song. So that's it for criticism. So that's Take Your Place by General Rudie. A great album that improves over its predecessor by leaps and bounds, and I suppose that's a real shame of it. To see how much General Rudie grew from their freshman to their sophomore album just really makes me wish they'd made a third album before calling it quits. This was a band that had a great sound, a ton of talent, and I wanted to hear more from them. Take Your Place by General Rudie is a stellar album, and a bit underrated in my opinion. If you haven't listened to it, go ahead and check it out.
Sometimes I